You're listening to The Deep Dive with Mike and Mandy.
All right, so let's dive into this whole United Healthcare CEO shooting thing. You guys wanted to get the full story, and honestly, it's pretty wild. We've got some articles here covering the event, obviously, and the arrest, plus some background on both Thompson and the suspect, Luigi Mangione. So yeah, get ready for a deep dive that takes us through corporate offices, a cross-country manhunt, and even the world of 3D printing.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast this investigation went from like who to why. I mean, Mangione was in custody less than a week after the shooting, which is incredibly fast. But the motive, that's a lot more complicated.
Yeah, it really is like trying to put together a puzzle where the pieces are.
Yeah.
Scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
Like we have this handwritten document they found on Mangione, and they say it reveals his motivation and mindset. And from what they're saying, it hints at some serious ill will toward corporate America.
Whoa, that phrase ill will toward corporate America, that's a red flag, right? Like, are we talking about a personal vendetta here, or is this something more ideological? And then you've got the fact that Mangione was active online. He seemed really interested in tech, like AI. He even shared stuff from authors like Tim Urban and Jonathan Haidt. You know, those guys that write about the impacts of technology on society?
Hold on, the guy who allegedly shot a CEO was posting about, like, tech philosophy. That's not the profile I pictured.
Yeah.
And it gets weirder. Turns out he co-founded a gaming company in high school called Abror Studios. They even released an iPhone game way back when.
And yet at the same time, you know, the police found a 3D printed gun and a silencer. Fake IDs, even clothing that matched what the shooter was wearing in the surveillance footage. This was not some random act. This guy was prepared.
Yeah, the shooting itself is straight out of a movie. Thompson was walking to the Hilton for a United Health Group investor conference, completely unaware, and then boom, this guy just opens fire from behind, caught on camera, multiple shots, and it even sounds like a silencer was involved.
It's just chilling, and to make things even more strange, the shell casings had words etched on them: deny, defend, and depose. That adds like a whole new dimension to this whole motive thing.
Okay, so we have a suspect who is tech savvy, maybe had some resentment towards corporations, but also planned this attack very carefully. What about the victim, Brian Thompson? What do we know about him?
Well, from what the articles say, he seems like he was really dedicated to his work and family. Thompson spent like 20 years working his way up at United Healthcare, eventually became CEO in 2021. He was from Iowa, had 2 kids, and by all accounts, he was well respected in the healthcare world.
It's hard to imagine what his family and friends are going through.
Yeah.
You mentioned he was on his way to a United Health Group investor conference. Was there any indication that Thompson felt threatened or like he needed more security?
Not that I could find in these articles. This seems to have come as a complete shock to everyone who knew him. It was so brazen, you know, happening in broad daylight on a busy New York City street.
It's almost like Mangione wanted to make a spectacle of this, especially with those cryptic words on the shell casings: deny, defend, and depose. Those aren't just random words. They seem very intentional.
They definitely are. It makes you think about how much planning went into this and what kind of message Mangione was trying to send. I think it'll be interesting to see if investigators can find any connection between those words and his supposed ill will towards corporate America.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
We have this guy, Mangione, who is deeply involved in tech, but also has this simmering anger towards corporations and planned this attack so carefully. Was there a specific reason he targeted Thompson, or was he just like a symbol of a system that Mangione wanted to lash out against?
Yeah, it's like we're trying to understand 2 completely different people. On the one hand, you have this young entrepreneur who was into AI and the future of technology. I mean, he even co-founded that gaming company, Abror Studios. So clearly he wasn't just passively observing the tech world.
Totally. He was building things, participating, which makes the other side of him even harder to grasp. The side that like meticulously planned this attack and even made a 3D printed gun. Did he think there was some kind of hypocrisy in the tech world? Like, was that fueling this anger?
Well, that's where his online activity becomes really interesting. Remember, he was sharing posts from Tim Urban and Jonathan Haidt. These aren't just your average tech bloggers. They're dealing with some pretty big philosophical questions about how technology is impacting society.
Yeah, those are some big names. Remind me, what were their main arguments? Could those arguments give us any insight into what Mangione was thinking?
Okay, so Tim Urban, the wait but why guy. He writes a lot about the potential dangers of artificial intelligence. Like, he's gone deep into the idea that AI could become so advanced that it surpasses human intelligence and maybe even poses a threat to us.
Wow. So Mangione was engaging with some pretty intense ideas about AI becoming this powerful force, even a dangerous one.
Right. And then you have Jonathan Haidt, who's a social psychologist. He's written a lot about how social media can negatively affect mental health and political polarization. He argues that algorithms can create echo chambers, which reinforce people's biases and make it harder to actually have conversations.
Okay, so Manji's reading about the potential downsides of AI, the negative effects of social media. It's starting to feel like there's a pattern here, like all of this was feeding into his worldview.
It's definitely possible. If he was already feeling alienated or disillusioned, these ideas could have resonated with him and fueled his anger towards corporations, especially the big ones involved in tech.
And let's not forget those words on the shell casings: deny, defend, and depose. Do you think those could be connected to his worries about technology? Like, was this some kind of statement?
It's hard to say for sure without knowing what's in that handwritten document, but it's possible deny could be about rejecting the idea that all technological progress is good. Like, he was pushing back against this blind faith in tech.
And defend. Could that be like a call to protect ourselves from the potential harms of technology? Like, he saw AI and social media as this looming threat.
Yeah, that's a valid interpretation. There's definitely a sense of urgency there, a feeling that we need to act to protect ourselves, which again lines up with the kind of stuff he was reading online.
And then there's depose, that one feels the most aggressive. Was he calling for the overthrow of, like, the tech giants, the people he saw as controlling this potentially dangerous force?
That's a scary thought, but it makes sense. He might have seen the leaders of these companies as the enemy, the ones shaping the digital landscape. So depose could be his way of saying, we need to take away their power.
It's all starting to feel like a puzzle with all these different pieces.
Right. The tech enthusiasts, the anxieties about AI and social media, the meticulously planned attack, and then those cryptic words. And at the center of it all, Brian Thompson, who became the target of this rage.
It's a reminder that the digital world, for all the good it can do, can also be a breeding ground for extremist ideas. And it seems like in Mangini's case, those ideas spilled over into the real world with tragic consequences. What I still don't get is why violence? If he was so passionate about these issues, why not use that energy for something positive? Like activism or writing or even creating alternative technologies that aligned with his values.
Right. There were other options. It's the biggest question in this whole case. Maybe he felt powerless, like he couldn't create change through traditional ways, like his voice wasn't being heard.
So he chose a horrible act to make a statement, to force the world to pay attention.
Maybe he thought that was the only way to deny, defend, and depose. But in doing so, he created another victim, another family devastated by this tragedy.
And what about the fact that Mangini had connections to San Francisco, Hawaii, and was arrested in Pennsylvania while the shooting was in New York? It's such a scattered trail.
It definitely adds to the complexity. Investigators are probably looking for connections between Mangini and Thompson that we don't know about yet. Like, was there something specific that made him focus on Thompson, or was this really a symbolic attack against corporate America as a whole?
We definitely need more pieces of this puzzle to really understand what happened. And I have a feeling that handwritten document is going to be key. If it really does explain his motivation and thinking, it can help us connect his online activity, those cryptic words, and the death of Brian Thompson. It's like we're trying to solve this crazy riddle. We have this tech guy who's obviously worried about where technology is going, and then he commits this awful act using that same technology. And those words on the shell casings, deny, defend, depose. It's like a message straight from his head.
Yeah, it's like he was trying to start a fight with these ideas, but in the worst way possible, like denying the idea that all technology is good. Like, he didn't believe in this idea of constant progress.
Right, and defend. Like, he's calling on us to protect ourselves from technology's dangers.
Yeah.
Like, he was this lone soldier fighting against AI, social media, whatever he saw as the threat.
And depose, that's where things take a dark turn. Was he trying to say that the whole system needs to be taken down? The corporations, tech giants, everyone he thought was responsible.
It's scary, but it does seem to fit with what we're learning about him. But the question I keep going back to is, why violence? If he felt so strongly about these issues, why not find a different way to be heard?
That's the question everyone's asking. Was there a moment where he just snapped? Where he thought that protests and stuff wouldn't work? Did he really believe this was the only way to make a difference?
It's just hard to imagine the kind of desperation that would lead someone to do something like that. What if he had found a different way to express those feelings? What if he had built something, created a community, found people who understood him?
That's the truly sad part of this story. It shows us how important it is to talk about the ethical issues with technology, about the real anxieties people are feeling. if we don't create space for those conversations, we risk pushing people away to the point where they might do something harmful.
And we can't forget that a man lost his life. Brian Thompson, a husband, a father, a colleague. His story is a reminder of the human cost of these issues.
Absolutely. This isn't just some theoretical discussion. It's a real tragedy that will affect people for a long time.
As we finish up this deep dive, I think it's okay that we have more questions than answers. Sometimes it's good to just sit with the uncomfortable stuff, to acknowledge how complicated things are and not jump to easy conclusions.
I agree. This case has taken us to some interesting places. Corporate boardrooms, 3D printed weapons, the philosophy of AI, even the anxieties that people are dealing with. And what we see is that we're all trying to figure out what role technology plays in our lives and what kind of future we're building.
So what do we do with all of this? How do we move forward? I think the first step is to keep talking, to keep asking these tough questions, and to really listen to each other, even when it's hard.
We need to be more understanding and willing to see things from different perspectives. If we don't, tragedies like this will keep happening.
This deep dive might be over, but the conversation needs to continue. And each of us has a part to play in shaping the future, in making sure technology is used ethically, and that everyone feels heard and valued. So what will your role be? That's what we want you to think about. Ever imagine a computer that could solve problems in minutes that would normally take, normal computers longer than the universe has existed?
Sounds pretty far out.
It is, but it's also the potential of this new quantum chip Google just revealed. It's called Willow. And get this, even Elon Musk is tweeting, "Wow," about it.
Wow. That's high praise from the guy who wants to colonize Mars.
It is high praise. So what's the big deal? Why is everyone so excited about this?
Okay, so first things first, we got to understand what a quantum chip even is.
Right. Lay it on us. What's a quantum chip?
Imagine the chips in our phones, our laptops, all the electronics we use.
Mm-hmm.
At the core of all that are these tiny switches called bits. And these bits, they can be either a 0 or a 1. That's how they store and process information.
Okay, got it. Zeros and ones, the language of computers.
Exactly. Now, quantum chips, they use something called qubits. And these qubits, well, they're like bits on steroids.
Steroids. Okay, I'm intrigued. Explain that.
So regular bits, like we said, they can only be a 0 or a 1. A qubit, though, can be both 0, A, and D1 at the same time. It's a mind-bending concept called superposition.
Whoa, okay, so it's like a coin that can land on heads, tails, or R, somehow on its side, showing both. How does that even...
That's just it. It's tapping into the weird, almost magical world of quantum mechanics, and that simultaneous state is what gives quantum computers the potential to be so incredibly powerful.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here, or maybe I'm seeing both the light and the dark. I don't know. This quantum stuff makes my head spin.
You and me both. But listen, this Willow chip from Google, it's kind of a big deal because of how it deals with a problem that's been plaguing quantum computing for decades.
Okay, and what's that?
Error correction. You see, quantum computers, they're notoriously sensitive. Even like a tiny little vibration or a stray photon, it can totally mess up the calculations.
So they're kind of like divas then. High maintenance, easily thrown off their game.
Huh. That's one way to put it. And for years, scientists have been trying to find ways to make these quantum systems more robust, less prone to errors.
And Google's claiming they cracked the code with Willow. Is that what's got everyone buzzing?
Exactly. What they've done is pretty ingenious, actually. They've linked Willow's error correction to its size. The more qubits you add, the more stable it gets.
Wait, seriously? That's like saying the taller a Jenga tower gets, the less likely it is to fall over.
It is, and that's what's so groundbreaking here. Traditionally, more qubits meant more potential for errors. Google's flipped the script. Willow actually learns from its mistakes.
How does a chip learn? Does it go to school or something?
Not quite. But Google's blog post explains it uses this fancy new algorithm that analyzes the patterns of errors and then anticipates and corrects for them as it goes. And let me tell you, this is a huge leap forward.
30 years, apparently. Scientists have been trying to crack this error correction nut. So Google's claiming to have figured it out.
Seems that way. And the proof, as they say, is in the pudding.
Oh, there's pudding. I love pudding. Wait, what's the pudding in this case?
The pudding is that Willow actually did something amazing. It solved this super complex mathematical problem in, get this, 5 minutes. The same problem that would take a regular supercomputer something like 10 septillion years to solve.
10 septillion? I don't even know how many zeros that is.
24. It's basically a 1 with 24 zeros after it. It's a number so big it's hard to even comprehend. But I gotta say, tech companies, even one as big as Google, they have a bit of a history of overhyping things, especially when it comes to quantum computing.
So a healthy dose of skepticism is probably a good idea.
Always. But there is something that makes me think Google is onto something real this time. They've made Willow's software open source.
What does that mean, open source? For those of us who aren't like coding wizards.
It means they're basically giving the code away for free. Anyone can use it, study it, modify it. It's a sign of confidence. If you were bluffing, you wouldn't let everyone peek behind the curtain, right?
Good point. So, okay, let's say Willow really is as good as Google claims. Why should the average person care? Most of us aren't trying to solve super complex math problems on a daily basis.
Fair enough. But the potential applications of this technology, they go way beyond just math problems. We're talking about the potential to revolutionize entire industries, from medicine to energy to material science.
Okay, give us the specifics. What kind of revolution are we talking about here?
Well, for starters, imagine designing new materials at the atomic level. Instead of just kind of mixing things together and seeing what happens, we could precisely engineer materials with specific properties.
Okay, I'm picturing it. What could we actually do with that?
Think about it. Lighter, stronger airplane wings, buildings that can better withstand earthquakes, even fabrics that can generate electricity.
Oh, okay, I'm starting to get the picture. This isn't just about faster computers, it's about a whole new way of designing and creating things.
You got it. And that's just scratching the surface. Think about medicine. With Willow, we could design drugs that target diseases with unbelievable precision. No more one-size-fits-all treatments. We're talking truly personalized medicine, tailored to your specific genetic makeup.
That sounds like something out of Star Trek. Yeah. But potentially life-changing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What about the energy crisis? Could quantum computing help us out there?
Oh, absolutely. Quantum simulations could be the key to designing the next generation of batteries. Imagine batteries that store way more energy, charge super fast, and last for years. That would completely revolutionize everything from electric cars to renewable energy grids.
So we're talking about potential solutions to some of the biggest challenges facing humanity. This isn't just about faster computers, it's about a whole new era of scientific discovery.
Exactly. And the coolest part is Google's not keeping this all to themselves. They're launching a Coursera course on quantum computing.
A Coursera course. So anyone with an internet connection can basically learn about this stuff now.
Yep. Which to me shows that they're committed to not just making these breakthroughs, but also empowering others to understand and even contribute to this new era of computing.
I like that. So, okay, if a prototype like Willow can already do all these incredible things, what about the future? What happens when this technology is fully realized? What kind of world are we looking at?
That is the question, isn't it? It's pretty mind-blowing to think about what we might be able to do with fully realized quantum computers in, say, 10, 20, 50 years. What problems might we solve that seem impossible today? It really makes you wonder.
No kidding. It's a future full of possibilities, and that's pretty darn exciting. So to all our listeners out there, if this has piqued your interest, check out that Coursera course. Who knows? Maybe you'll be part of the next quantum leap. All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're wading into some choppy waters, U.S.-China trade tensions, specifically how they're playing out in the tech world.
Definitely some rough seas out there.
And, we always like to get into the nitty-gritty here.
That's right. Gotta love the detail.
We've got some excerpts from some recent news articles here.
Yeah, some pretty interesting ones.
And, well, they focus on a recent move by China against, NVIDIA.
Ah, yes, NVIDIA.
The world's most valuable chip maker.
Huge implications here, potentially.
Absolutely.
For both countries. I mean,
right.
It could really reshape the global tech landscape as we know it.
No kidding. So
yeah.
Let's set the stage a little bit.
Okay.
Trump, he's back in the White House.
Back in the saddle.
Almost immediately, one of his first moves
It didn't take long.
was to slap a 10% tariff increase.
Yep.
On all Chinese goods.
Across the board.
Bold
move.
I mean, to me, it feels like a pretty significant escalation, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
In this ongoing trade war.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to remember this is happening after, years of escalating tensions.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when it comes to technology.
Right.
And intellectual property.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And, China didn't just sit back.
No, they did not.
Their response, an anti-monopoly investigation into NVIDIA.
No, Sass.
Swift and,
yeah,
impactful, you could say.
I mean,
almost $123 billion wiped off NVIDIA's market value.
Whoa.
In early trading.
What's that?
It was a bloodbath,
Yeah, that's a real gut punch.
to say the least.
So help me understand this.
Okay, sure.
What specifically is China taking issue with when
Yeah.
it comes to NVIDIA?
Okay, so it's SAMR, the State Administration for Market Regulation in China.
Oh, right, Samar.
Essentially their main regulatory body,
Right.
ensuring fair market practices.
Mhm.
They're investigating whether NVIDIA violated their anti-monopoly laws,
Okay.
which,
Right. Aim to prevent any single company from becoming too dominant
makes sense.
and stifling competition.
Mm-hmm.
They're also
Yeah.
looking into NVIDIA's acquisition of Mellanox Technologies back in 2020.
Right. Big deal at the time.
Huge player in high-performance computing.
Yeah.
To see, were there any violations related to that deal?
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the surface, this investigation feels like, well, a direct retaliation, wouldn't you say,
Sure.
for
Well,
Trump's tariffs?
seems that way.
But I don't know. I'm kind of sensing
Yeah.
there might be more to this story.
Well, you're right to be suspicious.
Right.
It's what's fascinating here. You see,
Okay.
China's not explicitly linking the investigation to the tariffs.
Oh, really?
Nope, they're operating within their existing regulatory framework,
Ah, I see.
which gives them,
Yeah.
a degree of plausible deniability.
Clever.
But the timing,
Oh, yeah.
very interesting.
Especially,
Yeah.
it comes right on the heels of the Biden administration.
Yep. Blacklisting, hundreds of Chinese semiconductor
Yeah.
companies.
It was a long list.
Yeah, it was. So,
Okay. You got to connect the dots.
this is the third U.S. crackdown, isn't it?
That's right. Third one in 3 years.
Wow.
Targeting specifically
Yeah.
China's semiconductor industry.
And we've seen, export restrictions?
On equipment makers
Right.
and other key players.
Trying to limit China's growth
Exactly.
in this critical sector.
They see it as a threat.
For sure.
Big one.
It feels very, I don't know,
Yeah.
tit for tat.
Classic.
Each side
Using different tools.
using different tools
Absolutely.
to gain leverage.
That's the game.
But what are the deeper motivations here?
Okay, so while it seems retaliatory on the surface, China targeting NVIDIA
Yeah.
also aligns with, their long-term goal,
What's that?
semiconductor independence.
Oh, right.
They've been pouring money
Tons of it.
into developing their own domestic chip industry.
Yeah. They want to be self-sufficient.
Exactly. And actions like this,
Like going after NVIDIA.
while disruptive,
Okay.
could be seen as,
Yeah.
a way to bolster their own companies
I see.
and reduce that reliance on foreign technology.
Right. So this is all part of a bigger plan.
You could say that.
Okay. So zoom out for me a little bit here.
Okay.
What are the potential ramifications of all this?
Well, it can't just be
Yeah.
a few $1 billion lost here and there.
Right. There's got to be more to it.
There is,
okay.
first and foremost,
Yeah.
massive uncertainty for businesses,
I bet.
those operating in both the U.S. and China.
Caught in the middle.
Exactly, caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
And they have to navigate,
This mess.
this whole shifting political landscape.
No easy feat.
Not at all.
And what if this back and forth keeps going? Doesn't that,
It could easily.
spiral out of control?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This type of escalation could lead to a full-blown decoupling
Whoa.
of the U.S. and Chinese tech sectors,
That's a scary thought.
which,
Yep.
would have significant consequences for innovation for the global economy.
Right. This isn't just like
Oh,
a regional issue.
absolutely not.
Right.
The interconnected nature of technology,
Yeah.
it means this is a global problem.
So break it down for me.
Okay.
What does this all mean for the average person?
Think about,
Yeah.
the devices you use every day,
Okay.
your phone,
Mm-hmm.
laptop,
Yep.
even your car.
Mm-hmm.
They all rely on semiconductors,
Right.
many of which are manufactured in China
Right.
or use components sourced from there.
So,
This trade war
Right.
could directly impact
uh-oh.
the availability and price of these products.
Oh, wow. So this is going to hit my wallet.
It's possible.
Okay. And I don't know. I'm just thinking, is there any chance these moves could actually stifle innovation?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right. In the long run,
Yeah.
by, creating these separate
Yeah.
technological spheres.
It's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
Historically, collaboration,
Right.
open markets,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's driven technological advancement.
Makes sense.
Fragmentation
Yeah.
could slow down progress, at least in the short term.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this situation, clearly incredibly complex.
You said it.
Far from over.
Not even close.
So what's the big question here?
I'd say,
I mean, what are we really looking at?
will these actions ultimately accelerate China's push
Right.
for that technological independence?
They're aiming for?
Or will it force both sides
Back to the table.
back to the negotiating table? Exactly.
Something to think about, folks,
Keep your eyes peeled.
as we watch this whole trade war unfold.
It's going to be interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us on another deep dive.
See you next time.
Until next time.
Bye.
Okay, are you ready for like some real life succession drama?
Oh, yeah.
We are diving deep into a story about family power
Yeah.
and a media empire that's secretly been battling it out in court.
Yeah, it's juicy.
It is juicy.
Yeah.
We've got these details from the New York Times. They got their hands on sealed court documents.
Ooh, exclusive info.
This is exclusive info. So we're talking about Rupert Murdoch,
Right.
93-year-old media titan,
Wow.
built this empire.
Huge.
Fox News, the Wall Street Journal, you name it, it's his.
Yeah.
But he's getting up there in age.
Yeah.
So the question of succession, who's going to take over?
It's a big one.
That's where things get really interesting.
I bet.
And, his kids were actually inspired to start strategizing after watching an episode of Succession.
Oh, wow. Really?
I know. So we're going to get to that. But first, let's talk about this family trust. Why is it such a big deal?
Well, the Murdoch family trust is basically the key to the whole empire. It dictates who controls this massive media empire after Rupert Murdoch passes away. And he's got 4 children. Lachlan, Elizabeth James, and Prudence. They are all vying for their share of the pie, or should we say voting power within the company.
Voting power. That's what it really comes down to. And, this isn't just about who gets to be the boss. It could actually change the media landscape.
Absolutely right.
Think about the news outlets you consume daily. This decision could affect what you see and hear.
That's a great point. This situation has major implications for the future of news and information. Like, imagine a scenario where control of Fox News shifts hands. Would we see a change in its editorial direction? Maybe even a shift in its political leanings?
Yeah, it's huge. So to really understand what's going on, we need to break down this core conflict. What exactly went down with the family trust?
Okay, so basically Murdoch and his son Lachlan, who's the current CEO of Fox Corporation, they tried to change the family trust to give Lachlan more control.
More control.
Yeah, essentially making him the clear heir.
So the other siblings, they weren't too happy about this.
Not really. Elizabeth James and Prudence weren't about to be sidelined. They decided to fight back.
And that's where the legal battle began.
Exactly.
Now, the judge in this case, he did not hold back at all.
No.
He straight up rejected Murdoch and Lachlan's attempt to change the trust. And he called their actions bad faith.
Which in legal terms means they weren't exactly acting honestly or fairly.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And get this, he even called their plan a charade.
Yeah, basically saying it was a carefully constructed act to give Lachlan all the power, no matter the impact on the company or his siblings.
Wow. So whose side did the judge end up taking?
Well, the judge very clearly sided with the siblings, saying that the proposed changes would have left them with practically zero power.
Zero.
Wow.
So what happens now? What does this ruling mean for the Murdoch media empire?
Well, if this ruling stands, and remember, it still has to be ratified by a district judge, and Murdoch's lawyer is planning to appeal,
Right.
all 4 siblings will inherit equal voting power after their father passes away.
So that's going to be interesting.
Can you imagine those board meetings?
I can't even imagine. And here's where the story takes a wild turn.
Even wilder.
Like straight out of an episode of Succession.
Okay, I gotta hear this.
So the siblings, they actually started planning their strategy after watching an episode of Succession.
No way.
I'm serious.
So they got inspiration from the show.
They did. It was an episode where a media mogul dies and his family's left fighting over control.
Life imitating art, huh?
It's insane.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder if they picked up any tips from the show.
Yeah, maybe they saw the chaos that happens when there's no clear succession plan and thought, we gotta avoid that.
Right. And this is a family business.
Yeah.
A very, very powerful one. What do you think this whole situation tells us about family businesses in general?
I think it really highlights the importance of clear succession planning.
Especially when you're dealing with this level of power.
Exactly. When things are left unclear, it can lead to conflict, legal battles.
Damage to the business.
Exactly. This whole situation is basically a case study in what not to do.
Yeah. So we've got this media empire potentially in the hands of 4 siblings, all with equal power, and they're still fighting it out in court. It's a big mess. It makes you wonder, is it better for a company like this to have one person in control, or is shared power better?
It's a tough question. There are strong arguments for both sides.
Right.
A single leader can make decisions quickly and provide a clear direction. But shared power means more diverse viewpoints and maybe more accountability.
A lot to think about.
Definitely.
This whole Murdoch situation. It's such a fascinating glimpse into the world of family power and media.
It really is.
And it just leaves us with so many questions about the future of the Murdoch empire and how it's all going to affect the information we consume every day.
Absolutely.
There's so much to ponder.
So much.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time.
See ya. Okay, so are you ready? We are going deep today, deep into the Golden Globe nominations for 2024.
Beyond the red carpet, though, right?
Yeah. We're going way beyond the glitz and glamour this time.
We're digging deeper.
Yeah. To uncover those amazing human stories and the passions and the surprising things that connect this year's nominees.
We'll be looking at excerpts from an Associated Press article, actually,
Oh, cool.
where the nominees react to the news.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
So it's like we get a backstage pass to their thoughts.
Exactly.
I love that. And so we're going to be talking about people like Demi Moore, nominated for The Substance.
Yeah.
And she's seeing this nomination as a big statement, a powerful one about self-love and acceptance.
Especially for women.
Yeah. And then we have Coleman Domingo, nominated for Sing Sing.
A film that really dives into how art can be this force for rehabilitation.
So interesting.
It is.
And we'll also be checking out Conclave, directed by Edward Berger, which is blurring those lines between religion and politics.
It's going to be fascinating.
I'm so excited. So where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with Cynthia Erivo.
Okay.
She received her 4th Golden Globe nomination
Wow.
for Wicked.
For Wicked. Amazing.
And she's calling it a full circle moment,
Oh, I love that.
especially because it's for a musical.
You know, that made me think when I read that, is this a sign that musicals are coming back?
Hmm.
You know?
Interesting.
She even pointed out how rare it is these days to have a big screen musical.
Yeah, they don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't. And this one, with a built-in fan base like Wicked has already in that world, you know, it's going to reach a huge audience.
What's fascinating to me is that this might be the first time that some people experience a musical.
Oh, that's such a good point.
It's like opening a door.
Yeah, to a whole new art form.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Makes you think about the impact of just one film.
It does.
So what do you think about all these adaptations from stage to screen?
I mean, we've been seeing a lot of them.
Yeah,
Is it here to stay,
right.
or is it a trend?
I mean, musicals have this appeal, though, that is just so enduring.
They really transport us.
Don't they?
They do. And with Wicked, that world is just full of magic and complex characters and thought-provoking themes.
Totally.
It's no wonder people are drawn to it.
Absolutely.
So moving on,
Yes.
Jeremy Strong,
Oh, yes. He's nominated for playing Roy Cohn in The Apprentice.
a film about Cohn's influence on a younger Donald Trump.
Yeah, and he seems surprised by the nomination given how controversial the topic is.
Yes, he said he thinks this film is really important for understanding America today, especially as we're heading towards the 2024 election.
That's a bold statement.
It is.
Do you think the film is trying to make a political statement, or is it more about exploring this complex person from history?
I think it highlights just how powerful film can be to really engage with these challenging figures from the past.
Right.
And whether it's trying to make a political statement or not,
Yeah.
it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths
Yeah.
and how they still impact us today.
Well, let's move on to Demi Moore now,
Okay.
who is nominated for The Substance.
Yes.
And she was incredibly excited about the nomination. She saw it as a victory,
Not just for her,
not just for her, but for women.
for women everywhere.
Yeah, and this message of self-love and acceptance.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts about that, especially now?
I think it's really connecting with the broader conversations we're having about self-acceptance and representation in media.
Yeah.
There seems to be this real hunger for different kinds of stories and experiences on screen.
It makes you wonder if Hollywood is finally listening,
It does.
you know? Because to see yourself in art, especially if you're from a group that's been marginalized, it can be so powerful.
Absolutely. And the substance seems to be tapping into that desire for authentic representation.
Okay, so let's shift gears to Pamela Anderson and her comeback to acting.
Her unexpected return.
Yeah. She's nominated for The Last Showgirl.
I read she poured her heart and soul into this film.
She did.
She was really open about feeling drawn back to acting. And this film gave her a place to channel her experiences.
Wow.
It's almost like she was meant to play this role.
It feels that way, and she seems surprised by the nomination.
She did.
It's like a classic comeback story, isn't it?
It is. And they always resonate with audiences.
Yeah. Why do you think we find those stories so compelling?
I think it's the idea that it's never too late to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
To chase those dreams even if you've been knocked down a few times.
Yeah.
And Pamela's story embodies that.
Okay, speaking of inspiring stories.
Yes.
Yura Borsov, nominated for a Nora.
Yes.
Was just beaming when he talked about the nominations. He kept emphasizing how collaborative the film was.
How it was a true team effort.
Yeah, which is refreshing to hear in an industry that often focuses on the individual.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that filmmaking is a collaborative art form.
It is.
And Nora also won the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year.
Oh, wow.
Which is huge.
It's a big accomplishment.
It is. A Palme d'Or win and a Golden Globe nomination. Wow, that must feel incredible for everyone involved.
It must.
It really underscores the film's artistry, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Now, this next nomination is interesting.
We're talking about Cooper Koch, right? Nominated for his role as Eric Menendez in Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story.
Yes, he seems very dedicated to portraying Eric authentically and wants to use his platform to really advocate for understanding of the case.
That's a powerful goal.
It is.
Especially given how sensitive the story is.
Right. It makes you think about the responsibility that comes with portraying these real-life tragedies and how it impacts how we view these events.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a film that shines a light on a different kind of monster, the criminal justice system.
Okay.
Coleman Domingo is nominated for Sing Sing.
Yes.
And he's incredibly passionate about this film's exploration of how theater can rehabilitate people in a prison.
He really believes in the power of art to change lives. And Sing Sing shows how theater can build community and empathy in unexpected places.
It's a unique approach to storytelling.
It is.
And it seems to be resonating with people. What are your thoughts on this trend of art being used for social justice and healing?
It's incredibly powerful. We're seeing art playing a bigger and bigger role in social justice.
It's true.
It can give power to communities that have been marginalized. It promotes dialogue, and it offers a path to healing.
Oh, okay. So last but not least,
let's talk about it.
We have Edward Berger, director of Conclave.
Which takes us inside the Catholic Church.
Yeah, during a papal conclave.
What I find interesting is that Berger is trying to humanize this whole decision-making process. He sees it as this political thriller full of these power struggles and ambition.
Wow.
And the themes resonate beyond just the Vatican.
It's like he's using the specific setting, the Vatican, as a microcosm to explore these bigger themes about power dynamics.
Exactly.
And it makes you realize that these struggles are everywhere, no matter your background or your beliefs. So before we move on to even more nominees, just take a moment to think about what's resonating with you so far.
Yeah, what stories are you curious about?
I'm fascinated by the diversity of the themes and perspectives.
Me too.
You know, we have everything from the magic of musicals to the darkness and political thrillers, from personal journeys to these big explorations of social issues.
There's a little something for everyone.
Yeah, and I can't help but notice how many of these films are tackling tough subjects and complex characters.
Right, they're pushing the boundaries.
It seems like Hollywood is taking more risks.
Yeah.
And they're inviting us to engage with the world in these new and meaningful ways.
I agree, and we've only just scratched the surface.
I know.
There's so much more to uncover.
So stay tuned, because this deep dive is just getting started.
Welcome back. We're diving back into those Golden Globe nominations.
We've got a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to uncover more stories. So where do we pick up?
Well, Rustin, this film is generating a lot of buzz, and Coleman Domingo actually received a nomination for his portrayal of Bayard Rustin.
Wait, Coleman Domingo? You mean he got 2 nominations this year?
He did.
That's incredible. So who is this Bayard Rustin? What makes him worthy of a whole movie?
He was a key figure in the civil rights movement, a gay black man who was often overlooked because of his sexuality.
Wow.
This film explores his life, his activism, and the challenges he faced.
That's a powerful story, especially today as we continue those conversations about equality, LGBTQ+ rights, race. It's all connected.
It is, and Rustin shines a light on this unsung hero, and it highlights how complex these movements for social justice can be.
Right, because they're all interconnected. They impact different groups in different ways.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how these nominations bring up stories from different times, connecting the past to the present.
Like Fever, for example.
Okay.
Michelle Williams is nominated for a portrayal of Edith Wharton, the writer.
Oh, wow, the Pulitzer Prize winner.
Yes, known for her sharp social commentary. And the film takes us back to America in the early 1900s. But it explores themes that are still relevant today.
Like what kind of themes?
The challenges women still face those societal expectations and their creative ambitions. Fever gives us a look into Wharton's life as a writer, dealing with those very issues.
It makes you wonder if some things never really change.
It does, but seeing these stories play out gives us new perspectives and starts important conversations.
So from literary icons to musical legends, let's talk about Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Tangled Up in Blue, up for Best Documentary.
Are documentaries getting more popular, or is this just because it's Bob Dylan a legend?
Well, Bob Dylan is definitely an icon, and this documentary is supposed to show us new insights into his creative process, his music, how he's evolved, and his impact on culture. But I do think documentaries are having a moment.
Yeah, I agree.
They can bring us closer to these larger-than-life figures, showing their humanity and the stories behind their art.
Revealing their humanity. I like that it's like getting to know them personally.
Exactly. And they also play a role in preserving history, sharing different viewpoints, and making us think critically. Bob Dylan, Tangled Up in Blue, has the potential to do all of that.
Okay, so for something completely different, how about horror? Evil does not exist. Directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, nominated for Best Foreign Language Film. What sets this apart from other horror films?
Well, Hamaguchi is an amazing storyteller, known for his exploration of human relationships. And evil does not exist. He takes that and creates a chilling look at the darkness lurking beneath everyday life.
Sounds unsettling. So what can we learn from horror movies? Do they just scare us, or is there something deeper?
They often reflect what society is anxious about and explore the darker parts of human nature.
Yeah.
They force us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us. And it seems like evil does not exist.
Yeah.
Is doing just that.
Okay, so shifting gears from darkness to relationships, May December is up for Best Motion Picture Drama, and Julianne Moore is nominated for her role.
This is a Todd Haynes film, known for his stylish and thought-provoking work. May December looks at a marriage with a large age gap, diving into power dynamics, societal scrutiny, and the strength of love.
Sound like a lot to unpack.
It is, and with Julianne Moore in it, the performances will be amazing. She just brings so much depth to her roles.
Now, I've heard a lot of Oscar buzz around The Killer, nominated for Best Motion Picture Drama, and Michael Fassbender is nominated for his role as well, as a killer.
It's a David Fincher film, so, it's going to be dark and suspenseful. He's a master at creating that atmosphere and tension, and this film seems to delve into the morality of violence, what it does to people, and what motivates them to do such extreme things.
Sounds intense. What about Fassbender, though?
He's known for really becoming the character he plays, and his portrayal of this assassin is supposed to be both chilling and captivating.
Before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, what's standing out to you from all these nominations? Are there any common themes emerging?
The range of stories being told, it's striking. We have historical dramas and biopics, suspenseful thrillers, thought-provoking horror films, exploring relationships and social issues. It really shows how cinema reflects all the different aspects of human experience.
I agree, and so many are pushing the boundaries and challenging conventions and offering these unique viewpoints. They're not shying away from darker themes or complex issues.
And that's what makes these nominations so exciting. There's something here for everyone, and I'm excited to see what conversations they spark.
There's more. We're just getting started. Stay with us for the final part of our Golden Globes deep dive. We have even more compelling stories and insights. We're back for the final part of our Golden Globes deep dive. Ready for more?
Absolutely. I'm ready to see what other stories we uncover.
Okay, well, let's talk about The Idol.
The Weeknd, you mean?
Yeah, he's starring in it, and he's known for pushing those boundaries with his music. So what do you think about him taking on this acting role?
Well, his music often explores dark and complex themes, and he's so captivating on stage. So it'll be interesting to see him bring that to the screen.
Yeah, I'm really curious how he'll handle the world of acting, and The Idol itself sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It explores the darker side of the entertainment industry, fame, ambition, all the things we don't often see portrayed, honestly.
It's like we're getting a glimpse behind the curtain of Hollywood.
Exactly. So speaking of ambitious projects, Bradley Cooper is nominated for Best Director for Maestro.
This isn't his first time directing, though.
Right, but this one feels different.
It does. Maestro tells the story of Leonard Bernstein, the composer and conductor.
Right, and Cooper not only directs, but he stars in it, too.
Yeah, he's been dedicated to this project for years, learning to conduct and play piano for the role.
Wow, that's dedication. Talk about immersing himself in Bernstein's world.
It really is.
Yeah.
What do you think about actors taking on these multifaceted roles, directing and starring in their own films?
It shows their passion for storytelling, and I think their desire to have control over their vision, and for Cooper, it seems to be working.
Yeah, the film has been praised for It's a portrayal of Bernstein, his genius, his relationships, and his legacy.
Okay, so from a musical legend to an incredible story of endurance, let's talk about Naiad.
Oh yes, Annette Bening is nominated for her role,
Right, the film tells the true story of Diana Naiad.
who at 64 became the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida without a cage, no shark cage.
That's amazing. Most people wouldn't attempt that at any age, let alone 64.
I know.
It's incredible, her resilience, her refusal to give up on her dreams no matter what. What do you think draws people to these kinds of stories?
There's something so inspiring about seeing someone overcome these impossible challenges.
It's true.
It reminds us that we can achieve great things if we set our minds to it. And Naiad's story specifically challenges how we view aging and what's possible later in life.
That's powerful. So for our final film, let's look at Saltburn, directed by Emerald Fennell.
It's nominated for Best Picture Drama.
Yes, and Barry Keoghan is nominated for his role.
Fennell's previous film, Promising Young Woman, was such a success.
Yeah.
So expectations are high for Saltburn. It's described as this darkly comedic thriller that explores obsession class and how far people will go to be accepted.
Wow, that sounds like a wild ride. And with Barry Keoghan, the performance will be incredible.
He really has a knack for playing these complex characters.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our Golden Globe deep dive.
It does.
What a journey. It's been so many incredible stories, thought-provoking themes, and such talent.
These films really give us a glimpse into the human experience, all the ups and downs, hopes and fears.
I'm walking away with this renewed appreciation for the power of storytelling and how films can impact us.
They really do.
They make us laugh and cry, think, and connect with the world in such profound ways.
It's what makes award shows like the Golden Globes so interesting. They celebrate the art of film and the people who bring these stories to life.
Absolutely. And to our listener, we encourage you to explore these films, dive into their worlds, and let those stories spark your imagination.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring the world of cinema and let the power of stories guide you.